Welcome to the Driving the World podcast series. I'm your host, Cully Holland. Today we have Anecia Hoffield, the product manager for our servo products, and we'll be discussing the DR2C. Hey, Anecia, how are you today?
Good. How's it going?
Doing great. Thank you so much for coming back on the podcast.
Yeah, of course.
So today we're talking about the DR2C, another fun bunch of letters and numbers in our nomenclature. So why don't we kind of just start off with what is it?
So our DR2C is going to be our IE5 ultra premium efficient motor
Okay.
that has permanent magnets inside of it.
Fantastic. So IE5, that's the international efficiency guidelines that all of our motors have to be rated by. So IE5, I'm assuming, is just the next step up. And what kind of makes it that premium, ultra premium package that you talked about?
So the permanent magnet motors that are embedded inside the rotor is what is the step up and makes it IE5.
Okay.
So the reason that we want to push towards IE5 is because we want to talk about a lot of energy savings.
Right.
And that's where the world is moving towards. So it's actually a third of the world is ran off electric motors.
Wow.
If you didn't know that.
Did not.
I didn't know that either until I started doing these motors. So that was a really cool fun fact. So what's really cool about this motor is the magnets are inside the rotor, like I mentioned, and they're embedded within the rotor. And so that's also great for sustainability.
Okay.
Because people love the sustainability product also.
Right.
So with it being inside the rotor, we cut down on a lot of the use of permanent magnets. So we don't need as many permanent magnets as we would need if they were on the outside of the rotor, especially for how big these rotors could get.
Right. Okay. So less permanent magnets. I know those are rare earth metals, so definitely less is better. And I'm assuming that them being embedded while using less magnets, it doesn't affect the actual functionality of the motor at all, does it?
No, it actually increases it.
Really?
Yeah. So with it being inside the rotor and using the permanent magnets in the rotor and the stator, it cuts down of a third of the rotor losses.
Okay.
Compared to an asynchronous. So that's where a lot of the energy savings that we're seeing is coming from. Those rotor losses aren't there anymore. So we're not lacking in efficiency anymore.
Okay.
With the permanent magnets inside the rotor, we're cutting down on a lot of those energy losses and rotor losses. So we're being able to be more efficient inside the motor. But it also helps with torque and power. So we get a lot of torque inside a small package.
And I'm sure everybody loves to hear that. And with a lot of these sustainability acts, I've heard that they're not just looking at the motor itself, but kind of how the motor acts over the entire lifetime of use.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything that kind of pertains to this motor with the life of the motor instead of just, hey, I bought it and it's efficient, we're good?
Yeah, so especially with this motor, we love to talk about the total cost of ownership within inside a motor. So total cost of ownership, and this goes for any motor really, asynchronous, this motor, servos, anything. So you look at it as 4% is the actual cost of the motor, while 96% is making that motor run for its lifespan.
Wow. Okay.
So if you have lesser efficient motors, that cost, and especially if you're running 24/7, that cost can really add up at the end of the day. So with these like IE5 motors, we're really decreasing the 96% of that cost and really lowering the total cost of ownership.
And I'm sure that's something a lot of customers may not think about. So that's great to know. So these sound like great motors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan already. Do they cover a good size range? Kind of where do they fit? Like torque ranges and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different sizes right now, 6. And the torque ranges are from 3.3 to 63 Newton meters.
Okay.
The speed classes are 2,000 to 3,000 RPM.
Okay. So it sounds like a pretty standard, useful across the board motor. Where would some of our customers look to find these or put these into use?
So these would be great in conveying applications, especially conveying applications that are running at a long speed, long life or long period. So if you think of airports, parcel, or the post office, different things like that. Other ones are like interlogistics
Right.
and automotive with skid conveyors and then mixers, and different applications.
So it sounds like this is definitely not a one-trick pony. It can be used in a lot of areas, and it's going to be a very capable and hopefully well-used motor in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And especially we have a lot of flexibility with this motor as well.
Cool.
So a lot of options that you're getting with our DRN, like regular asynchronous motor, you can put onto this motor.
Oh, okay.
So you can add a brake, any encoder you want, and a gearbox if you want to run it with any one of our gearboxes.
Very cool. Well, I think we've touched a lot on a lot of the components and kind of where the DR2C is going to find a home. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or does that about do it?
No, that's about does it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate you being on.
All right. Thank you.